and welcome to our Global Diplomacy program. This special edition covers President Prabowo Subianto's foreign diplomacy agenda as his recent working visit to Europe, where he met with King Felipe of Belgium and EU officials. The president also attended Bastille Day in France and held a bilateral meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron on July 14th. For the next 30 minutes, we will bring you the highlights of President Prabowo Subianto's visit, as well as a number of commitments agreed upon during his diplomatic engagements. I am Valentina Daniel. This is Global Diplomacy.
Upon his arrival at Laeken Palace, President Prabowo received a warm welcome from King Philip in the palace courtyard. President Prabowo was accompanied by Cabinet Secretary Teddy Indra Wijaya and Indonesian Ambassador to Belgium, Andri Hadi. President Prabowo and King Philip held a tete-a-tete in the King's private study room. In a warm and friendly atmosphere, the two exchanged views on strengthening bilateral relations between Indonesia and Belgium and also talked about strategic issues. Prabowo then was escorted by King Philip to a car before leaving to Brussels airport. President Prabowo's meeting with King Philip was the last agenda of a number of meetings during the president's state visit in Belgium since Saturday. The president held earlier bilateral meetings with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, in Brussels. President Prabowo then headed to France to fulfill the invitation as the guest of honor at the Bastille Day celebration, which falls on Monday.
This is our first meeting here in Brussels.
During a joint press conference with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in Brussels on Sunday, President Prabowo confirmed that Indonesia and the EU have reached consensus on all aspects to finalize a landmark free trade agreement. President Prabowo said Europe excels in science, technology and finance, while Indonesia has important resources for industry. He also said partnership with Europe can also bring positive impacts to the Southeast Asian region. President Prabowo considered this agreement as a good example in the midst of global geopolitical and economic injustice. He mentioned the European Union is still a leader in various aspects of modern life. The negotiation on Indonesia-EU Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement began in 2016. Until 2025, the process has seen 19 rounds. The official website of the European Union says the political agreement last week became an important step towards the completion of IEU-SEPA in September 2025. The final agreement will be finalized by the European Union Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, Maros Sefcovic, together with the Indonesian Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs, Airlangga Hartarto.
Yes. Again, thank you very much. Very glad about that.
The Comprehensive Economic Agreement between Indonesia and the European Union will be finalized by the European Union Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security and the Indonesian Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs. The agreement is an important step towards the completion of the IEU-SEPA in September 2025. According to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, Europe and Indonesia have chosen the path of openness, partnership, and shared prosperity. The EU website informs the IEU-SEPA will boost trade and investment, promote inclusive and sustainable growth, and improve supply chain resilience. The agreement will also support cooperation in the area of essential raw materials, which are vital to the strategic interests and industrial competitiveness of both sides. Official data show that trade between Indonesia and the European Union sees significant progress with a value of $30.1 billion in 2024.
Indonesia's trade surplus against the European Union is also increasing rapidly, reaching 4.5 billion US dollars in 2024, up from 2.5 billion from 2023. To support people-to-people relations between the European Union and Indonesia, the European Commission has adopted a visa cascade decision for Indonesia. With this policy, there will be much faster and easier access to multiple entry visas for Indonesian citizens going to Europe.
Sometimes very tough. Today we achieved a breakthrough.
Top Economy Minister Erlangga said in a statement on Monday the deal was marked by the signing and exchange of letters between the government of Indonesia and the European Commission as a form of high-level political deal to push acceleration of the finalization of the AU-CEPA negotiations. The exchange of letters was carried out between Indonesia's Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs Erlangga Hartarto and European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security Maros Šefčovič in Belgium on Sunday local time. The meeting of the two figures began with tete-a-tete session, then continued with exchange of letters, which marks an important milestone in the finalization process of the AU-CEPA. Erlangga said the exchange of letters serves as a strong symbol of both parties' commitment to push substantial completion of the AU-CEPA towards signing in 2025 through mutually beneficial and balanced solutions.
Prabowo said Europe is excellent in science, technology, and finance, while Indonesia has important resources. According to Prabowo, synergy between both parties, added with Indonesia's position as big part of ASEAN, will strengthen the world's economic stability and geopolitics. On the same visit, Indonesia's Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs Erlangga Hartarto had a meeting with European Union Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security Maros Šefčovič. Both figures agreed on several important points to speed up completion of the Indonesia-European Union Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or AU-CEPA negotiations. Erlangga said political deals that have been achieved serve as a milestone toward completion of the AU-CEPA in September 2025. He emphasized that this success shows strategic contribution of both parties in strengthening long-term partnership.
For us, Indonesia is clear.
At the ASEAN-EU Post-Ministerial Conference in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Foreign Minister Sugiono emphasized the importance of an equal, fair, and inclusive partnership between ASEAN and the European Union to maximize potential cooperation. Sugiono lauded the progress of ongoing free trade agreement negotiations between the EU and several ASEAN member states, including Indonesia. The minister also highlighted the ongoing ASEAN-EU relationship and other sectors such as sustainable development and the energy transition. According to Sugiono, ASEAN-EU dialogue must continue to be maintained, including through the continuation of the Joint Working Group on Palm Oil, the Comprehensive Air Transport Agreement, and exploration of potential cooperation within the Indo-Pacific framework. During the meeting with the EU, he cited the situation in Palestine and the Middle East and said the economic success would be difficult to achieve if global geopolitical uncertainty persists.
Prabowo's presence at Bastille Day parade is by special invitation personally extended by French President Emmanuel Macron when he visited Indonesia in late May 2025. The official invitation has placed Indonesia among the ranks of strategic partner countries that have received such an honor in the long history of Bastille Day. The tradition of inviting world leaders as guests of honor at Bastille Day parade began symbolically in the late 20th century. Guests of honor are usually given a place on the main podium alongside French president and prominent figures of the host country, and may also feature the symbolic participation of the guest country's military troops. Prabowo's presence as the guest of honor this year is evident from his position next to President Macron. Not only they are on the same podium, but Prabowo stands beside Macron. Macron even gives Prabowo a warm embrace after opening the Bastille Day ceremony. The two also have a brief conversation. In his X account, President Prabowo Subianto says that he is proud of seeing Indonesia participated in the military parade of France's biggest holiday, Bastille Day, on Monday as a special guest. Prabowo mentions he was invited to the celebration as an honorary guest, with the Indonesian Joint Military Police Contingent joining as a country of honor in the military parade. The president also says the participation shows the closeness of defense relations between Indonesia and France. According to the president, the defense relations between Indonesia and France cover many areas ranging from modernization of primary weapons system, joint military drill for all forces, to exchanges of knowledge and technology. Furthermore, Prabowo says Indonesia's participation is also an important milestone for the 75 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Being invited to the parade, Indonesia shows its strong position as a strategic partner for France in the Indo-Pacific region.
The French National Day parade that took place in Champs-Élysées on June 14th became a historical moment for Indonesia, as it's first time for Indonesia's military contingent to participate at the ceremony. The Indonesian contingent opened the parade by showcasing a drum band performance and a marching formation of military academy cadets. Cabinet Secretary Teddy says millions of Paris residents witnessed the performance of the Indonesian soldiers. He also says that Indonesia is now increasingly recognized as a significant player in global diplomacy. After the parade, President Prabowo had a dinner hosted by President Macron at Élysée Palace. Prabowo's state visit to France also marks the end of the president's trip in Europe, which included important meetings in Brussels, Belgium.
French President Emmanuel Macron extended his gratitude to Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto for attending Bastille Day parade in Paris, France on Monday. Macron was impressed with Indonesian military troops marching on French National Day. Prabowo attended Bastille Day ceremony as the guest of honor in Paris, France on Monday, July the 14th, 2025. At the event, Prabowo sat on the same stage with French President Emmanuel Macron at Champs-Élysées Road, Paris. The Indonesian contingent was honored to be the parade's opening force, the first to step in front of the French president's podium at the Place de la Concorde. A marching band and majorette unit consisted of 500 personnel from the military, police, and their academies. A marching band played the national song Maju Tak Gentar as the Indonesian troops passed the high-level podium. Apart from attending Bastille Day parade, State Secretariat Minister Prasetyo Hadi said President Prabowo also signed cooperation agreement in transportation, culture, and tourism sector with France. The agreement was a follow-up to the signing of a previous cooperation agreement with France.
According to a live video stream on the Indonesian Presidential Secretariat's YouTube channel, the honor was bestowed after the two leaders conducted a troop inspection during a welcoming ceremony for Macron. After a French delegate pinned the honor badge on President Prabowo's left chest, Macron announced that the French government had conferred the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor on him. Following the ceremony, both presidents visited the class of French Language Laboratory, a premier facility of the armed forces dedicated to enhancing French language proficiency, in line with Indonesia's growing defense equipment cooperation with France. President Prabowo also took the opportunity to engage directly with cadets enrolled in the program. He inquired about their regional backgrounds and educational experiences, demonstrating his strong commitment to nurturing human capital within the defense sector, capable of responding to the evolving dynamics of global security.
Particularly in the defense sector, Indonesia and France have taken significant steps to strengthen their military cooperation, aiming to bolster regional stability. During a bilateral meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron in Jakarta in May 2025, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto expressed hope that close relations between Indonesia and France will help foster geopolitical stability and global uncertainties. During Macron's state visit, France and Indonesia signed a defense agreement that could lead to new Indonesian orders of French military equipment, including Rafale fighter jets and Scorpion submarines. That time, Macron said he was delighted to have signed a letter of intent that could open up a new perspective with new orders for Rafales, Scorpions, and light frigates. In turn, President Prabowo Subianto described France as one of Indonesia's main partners in modernizing defense equipment, particularly through defense industry cooperation, which comprises joint production and technology transfer. And the joint statement between the President Prabowo Subianto and President Emmanuel Macron on the state visit by Macron to Indonesia last May, both leaders underscored the importance of the foreign ministers and defense ministers of the two countries convening the 2+2 dialogue regularly. The two presidents' leaders also welcomed the entry into force of the Defense Cooperation Agreement, or DCA, between Indonesia and France, following the completion of internal procedures by Indonesia in October 2025 and France in April 2025. Furthermore, both leaders expressed a shared ambition to further deepen the cooperation between the two countries in the field of defense. Both leaders also took note of the 11th Indonesia-France Defense Dialogue, or IFDD, held in Jakarta, Indonesia in April 2025, and welcomed the port call in Bali and Lombok of the French carrier Strike Group in January 2025 on the occasion of the La Pérouse multinational exercise mission led by France that fostered coordination and mutual confidence amongst countries in the region. The IFDD is the ongoing discussions and agreements between Indonesia and France, aimed at strengthening their military cooperation and defense ties. The partnership focuses on enhancing regional stability, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region, amid growing tensions and territorial disputes in the South China Sea. France-Indonesia defense cooperation is nonetheless essential to strengthening Indonesia's standing internationally and improving its capacity to protect its territorial integrity. Additionally, the partnership will hopefully give Indonesia more access to advanced training opportunities, intelligence sharing capabilities, and sophisticated military technology. In addition, the common geopolitical interests and dedication to regional security will further cement France and Indonesia's growing strategic partnership.
Indonesian and French defense ministers have agreed in a meeting that the two countries can collaborate through technology exchange and other forms of cooperation, Indonesian Defense Ministry spokesperson Brigadier General Frega Wena said. The French embassy in Jakarta said that France had deployed a carrier strike group to Indonesia for the first time. The Charles de Gaulle, France's first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, made stops in Bali and Lombok, where it carried out a number of logistical activities as part of a 6-month mission in the Pacific that started in November 2024. The Charles de Gaulle also participated in a joint exercise with warships from 8 countries in the Straits of Malacca, Sunda and Lombok, the embassy said. Military cooperation between Indonesia and France has grown in recent years since President Prabowo Subianto was still serving as Indonesia's defense minister.
And that concludes our program, Global Diplomacy. We'll be back with another episode with President Prabowo Subianto's foreign diplomacy agenda. I am Valerina Daniel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.